Hello, everybody. Welcome to Thursday Night Live with Bill Tucci.
Behold his mighty hand.
Tucci gang, Tucci gang, Tucci gang, Tucci gang, Tucci gang, Tucci gang, Tucci gang.
Just want to manage expectations.
Weird.
This is the worst.
Ding goes the bell, Billy. You didn't say it.
Fuck it.
Fuck it. There we go. All
Fuck it.
right.
Do it live.
Do it live, brother. What up, man?
I'll write it myself. You don't know what I'm
You're
talking about.
You're
That's
being
the
kind of
whole
salty tonight.
like how salty? Like how
You know, that kind of salty.
Good to see you, bro. How are you, Scalawags?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. It's Thursday Night Live with Bill Tooch, bro.
Dude, Thursday Night Live. We got to hold off for our little drink. We'll figure out what we're drinking. But, dude, can we say we got a great show tonight? Welcome, everybody. Dan Genovese, Marcus Killigrew, my bro, Fritz Schnitzel, Leg Kick. Who else we got here? Randy Howell, as always. Great.
Spaceman in the house.
Spaceman's here. You guys rock. Thanks for joining us. Man, we got a great show tonight. Can we say, Scala, that we have – is he like the biggest or at least the biggest earning or most successful comic book artist of 2023?
I would say so.
Right? I mean, how much millions has he
I think it's like
brought in?
300 million, I think.
300
I think, or
million.
maybe 800 million?
300 million illegals
A billion?
are buying his book. I don't know. Let's forget it.
It's all,
Guys, we got a great guest.
It's all
tonight.
blackmail money anyways. We know how it works.
We got a great guest tonight. He's a comics legend. He's one of the best storytellers and draftsmen in the industry as well. He's an all-around great guy. Your friend and mine, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Mr. Ron Garney. You gonna bring him in? Fucking retard. Hey,
Hey!
wake up, man.
We're on.
Very nice.
It's Ron Garney.
Ron Garney. Yeah.
Yeah, 300 million.
Wait a minute, who said that? Scala, you
What?
can't say that. 300 million illegals.
Yeah, they're all getting free copies of Berserker when they.
They're all, that's what you should do, dude. You should give them all. Give every migrant that comes in a free copy of Berserker. Salute, boys. Good to see you guys. Happy Thursday. Ron, salute. Good to see you.
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
If you guys
Fire away, gentlemen. Let's do it live.
do it live. That was Hey, Ron, we're gonna do a thing. We call it "Get to the Point" now, because a lot of times we spend a lot of time fucking around and stuff like that, and we end up on here for an hour and a half. We have a good time, but
Let's get to the point. I'd rather you get right to the point.
you look. Now I know that you're a big star. You're hanging with big shots, but anybody ever tell you that you kind of look like Elvis Presley?
Did somebody tell you to say that?
No one told me to say that.
Somebody had to tell you to say that.
No one told me to say that. But did you?
No, you saw something on my Instagram.
I didn't see shit. I didn't see
Yes,
anything.
you did.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. Shut up.
Yeah. What?
I see he's lying. I knew it.
Well, you do look like Elvis if he died at 42. So
Yeah, when I was younger, it was like uncanny how much I resembled him, and I would have people tell me that literally every week. You know, I remember standing in a post office one time, a woman kept staring at me, and finally I just stopped. I looked. I know I look just like Elvis. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. You should try to star in him in a movie or something. Like, yeah, just never went down that road. But
never went down that road.
We hung
I
out
could
with
look
him.
like Fred Gwynn, so I was doing all right.
That's true.
Lily.
Grandpa.
Grandpa. Hey, Herman.
We met Grandpa once. He had a restaurant in the city.
Nice.
And we went to his restaurant, Debbie and I think in probably our senior year in college or a year after that or something like that. And he wasn't really nice.
Wasn't?
Nah, he took a picture with us with a cigar, but he was like yelling at his staff and everything.
You know, in fairness to him, if you were actually him, you'd probably be not as nice as you could be either. I mean, look at the guy. I mean, when did you see him? He was probably like 100 years old at that point.
Well, it's probably 89. I think it was 89 when we met him. And we took a picture with him, and of course I can't find it, which sucks. But he was, and I think the restaurant was called Grandpa's.
It was called Grandpa's. Yeah.
Was it?
It's still open.
Is it?
It is. Yeah. He's obviously not running it anymore.
Where was that?
In the city, downtown, I think.
In New York?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I think I remember hearing something about that. Yeah.
It was a pretty good restaurant too, from what I heard.
Yeah, we had a
Food did they serve? And was it like, did they have cobwebs and shit? What was it?
Nah, I think it was like a nice place.
I heard the servings were monstrous.
Hey, Dan. What's up, Dan Genovese?
Dan Genovese is a good dude, man. I'll drink to you, Dan Genovese.
What's
so,
up?
Ron, man, you're having a fucking banner year. Well done, brother. I tell you though, this Mr. Big Shot, one of the saddest things I saw was at Baltimore Comic Con. Here's Ron's got this massive line the whole time. He's working, he's sketching. And then I walk by and I see him sitting by himself in a restaurant. You eating alone on Saturday night? And then Nicole came and, our friend. But
oh, yeah, Nicole.
You sitting alone. You eating alone.
I just left the con. I was starving. I didn't care, man. I honestly don't. I used to go out all the time. I used to go out with legions of people all the time. And I don't know. I don't have that. I don't have that in me anymore. I kind of just go. I'm so tired. And I also had a lot of work I had to get to because I take on a lot of commissions and stuff. People want tons of sketches.
Yeah.
If I don't get to them, if I go and screw off and I'm going out and drinking and stuff like that, it's misery trying to get those things done.
Oh yeah, Sunday, right? And it's Sunday, dude.
Yeah, I don't want to have to send them to them after the show, and then I'm stressed out because I got stuff going on here, and so I try to keep it even and just but yeah, Nicole showed up. She came and sat with me for a bit, and it was fine. Yep.
Did you go back to work?
The lonely guy.
The lonely guy. There's lonely Ron.
I'm fine
eating his steak. He killed it himself too, by the way.
Yeah. Some of the guys, some of the other pros, I'm not going to say names, but maybe I will. They're like, look at Ron Garney. You missed a big shot.
They did.
He doesn't have anyone asking. He doesn't have anyone to go to dinner with.
I remember back in the night. It's fucked up. I mean, you want to really get. I should have a couple more drinks and I'll start spilling everything, I think. But I remember back in the 90s, I used to go out and I would buy dinner for like a whole table of people, like big names. I won't mention who their names are,
Yeah, cheap bastards though.
It was around the time when I was on Cap and stuff, and Cap was popular, and so we'd all go out. And I remember I would pay the bill, and try to show everybody a good time. I'd have a great time. I'd be drinking this and that. But then I remembered later on, later on, I would see these same people at conventions once my popularity kind of went down a little bit, and they would never even invite me out or anything, And so I see them now, and I don't know, man. I just find myself, as you get older, you see things in a proper perspective is all I can say.
Yeah.
I don't have sour grapes or anything about it, but I'm just saying that, I won't do that again.
Oh yeah. Same thing. We went through the same exact thing too. And
you show everybody a good time and you think it's going to be reciprocated, and then, we're going to cons together. We're going to do all this and that. And then it's not, you realize that people they'll take,
Oh yeah, they're big, and they won't even buy you a freaking beer. Even the office buy you a damn beer.
It's like, what the fuck, Don't you remember like 5-6 years ago or 10 years ago when I bought all you guys dinner? So now I barely even, I'll nod, say hello, but that's it. I won't go out of my way.
Yeah, Billy loves hosting dinners and stuff at conventions.
Oh, God, dude, I'm done. I'm done. I got some shit from people. I posted on on Twitter about and Facebook, I think, about San Diego's coming up, right? And every San Diego, you get these people showing up, and a bunch of other shows, and they'll show up. The show ends at 7, and they'll show up at 7:00. So dinner, and I'm like, I don't know. Did you make plans? Did you make reservations? What time you want us to meet you?
Yeah.
No, they expect us to do it. So I post them like just once. I said aside from like Josh Jeppy, my buddy Jeff Kaufman, Polito's, Jimmy, Palmiotti. I said it would be nice for somebody else to invite us to a dinner once.
I know.
Or make just once.
What the hell's up with that, man? I
Yeah.
just think people are clueless.
Yeah.
I don't, you seem like you're probably a little more like me, is I just think I love sharing it all. If I'm doing well, I want to share it. I want to show people a good time. And you would think that, that would be reciprocated. But I just don't think it occurs to them. I think they're just so used to doing their thing. There are people though who are really supportive. I will say Greg Capullo was one of them.
Oh yeah.
He's a great dude. I remember I was kind of down and out at one point in a con, and we're just walking out in the parking lot, and he kind of gave me a little bit of a pick me up walk and stuff. I never really forgot that, because not too many people go out of their way. If you're not feeling well about something, it's not too many people go out of their way to be sensitive to that. They kind of avoid you instead. They'll be like, oh yeah, and they don't really want the negativity. And it's not me being negative. It's just sometimes you're feeling like you're a little bit down, but he was there and he really gave me a boost up. I was feeling down about the industry in general, and here, and look at me now. So it's, things have a way of working themselves out,
Yep.
I never forgot that. It's a little talk, it wasn't a huge thing, but just that little bit that he cared enough to say something to me, because he kind of sensed it. I thought that was a really classy thing for somebody to do, because I would do that for someone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We should all do that with each other. We should
Yeah.
ignore, just ride on other people's coattails when they're doing well. But if they're down, you should lift them up. And that kind of brings me full circle back to the dinner thing. Things were going good, but if you see that person who tried to show you a good time and they're not, you should try to come over and say, hey, what are you doing? Why don't you come out with us again or something?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we asked you to dinner, right? There.
Yeah, I know you did, but it's funny with me is I don't pay attention to my phone enough. I think when you texted, I didn't even get it till like 2 hours later.
Oh, yeah, it's all right. It's okay.
I was like, oh, dude, I'm so sorry. Like you and your wife were probably in bed at that point.
Well, that's how so Debbie is like, we've met your wife and stuff, and my wife knows more about how the comic industry runs, I think, than I ever will, since she kind of runs our business.
Yeah.
But she's not into this shit at all. She doesn't know anybody. She knew Stanley. I met Stanley through her, because her and Joan were online in '94. I told this story before. And at San Diego Comic-Con in 1994, Debbie went to go get us lunch online at the con, at the concession stand. And this woman behind her, they just started talking. And it ended up being Joni, Stanley's wife. And they became like friends. And all of a sudden, next thing I know, Debbie goes walking up with Stanley and Joan. And Debbie's like, oh, and meet my new friends. And I'm like, and she'd heard of Stan Lee.
Right.
But
that's a big friend to all of a sudden make.
Yeah, right. And that was our first con. And we're like, I'm like, wow, this is gonna be great.
Your wife must have some kind of uncanny charms then. She just knows how to work people.
Mm-hmm.
So
Billy says it's the legs that did it.
Yeah, no, well, she always wore heels in her.
Hey, I want to say hi to all these people. I can see these things.
Yes.
Yeah, let's pop some of these up here. We got Project Noasis here. Ron is the man from Paul, super cool guy. Can't wait to see you guys at the next con.
Nice
Nice
to see you guys.
Ron made big bucks in the 90s, Apex Comics. There you go.
He could
Buying dinners.
I like this one. He could make big bucks again with his own crowdfunding in CG.
Oh, hell yeah, man. Where's that? Where's this?
Okay.
Hell yeah, dude. You would be monstrous. You're already doing it.
What do you mean by not top 2 money? I don't get that. Probably does okay with Berserker, but not top 2 money.
Where's that one?
You mean DC and Marvel?
Well, they're not making money anymore.
Heroinberg.
All right, Heronberg's real smart. Let's see here.
This is it.
Yeah.
At Apex, he could make big bucks again with
Oh.
his own crowdfunding, and CG probably does okay with Berserker, but not top 2 money.
Yeah, I think he's doing pretty good, Ehrenberg.
I mean, the man keeps good company. The man keeps good company.
Look at
Look how happy you look.
Scowl.
Dude,
Look at that scowl.
Yeah, look at that.
You're like, get off the mic, Keanu.
That guy just called Ron a fag.
yeah.
Hey, Ron.
It's funny.
Where's the picture? Nile, did you see the picture of Ron and Keanu and I don't know, one of the other guys? And you guys were like entering a party. You had like jackets on and stuff. You guys were walking in like
oh yeah,
Mr. Pink and Mr. White.
That was recently in March. Keanu invited me out to the John Wick 4 premiere in New York City. Nice. So it was like a private screening. And so we went, and I brought my wife, and then I took, I was hanging out with him backstage. It was funny. The whole thing was interesting because I was there, and then we were supposed to meet at a club, and I got to this club, and Chad Stahelski was there, the director and everything. But I walked around this club, and Keanu was nowhere to be found. So I just assumed maybe he just wasn't going to show up, So I texted him, and I said, hey, man, I'm out here with my wife. And then I told one of the bouncers, I looked over, and I saw a bouncer at a door. So I went over to the door. I said, hey, is Keanu going to show up? And he goes, yeah, well, he's back here behind this door. I'm like, oh, okay. I said, well, could you tell him Ron Garney's out here? I work with him on Berserker. He's like, yeah, okay, sure, buddy. Like, like I was full of shit or something. Like I said, I worked with him, And so then I texted Keanu, said, I'm out here. All of a sudden, Keanu comes running out the door in the middle of the club, and he just waves me over and my wife and gives me a big hug. And then the bouncer's like, oh, yeah, like he did it for me.
Yeah, of course he did. Yeah.
But it was funny. It was a little feather in my cap because he thought it was full of shit, But then we went back there and we had a great time. We took pictures and stuff. And there is one shot. I went in and I was like, I picked Keanu up off the ground, like joking around. And he tried to put me in like this headlock and stuff. We were messing around. It was pretty funny. So a lot of people were asking if we were ever going to train together and things like that. But the thing is with him is he does it for the movies. He doesn't really train to actually for the real combat because it has to be choreographed. And also he's a lot of insurance on him.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So that's probably not going to happen anytime soon, any kind of real training.
Well, he's a beast at that 3-gun.
Yeah.
He is good, because I've done it. But he's put the hours in, man, and he is good. Now 3-gun is when you're at a range and it's pistol, shotgun, and rifle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and that fucking guy, holy crap, he is.
He was doing it in front of Halle Berry and so the actors from the last John Wick movie, and they were like, you could see that how impressive it is.
Yeah,
he's really a remarkable human. I mean, he's very committed to everything he does. He's hyper smart. He's not the guy that you see in Bill and Ted so much. I think he is internally. He's a really nice person, so he's like that in that way, but he's actually hyper smart, and he's very committed to the comic craft. When he got on Berserker, he was very engaged in it, and we talked all the time on Skype, and and then we hung out in San Diego, and he was totally in it, and we're going to probably do more after this. So
yeah, I hope so. So Ron, now that you're going to film premieres, you had probably
I Am Legend too. I worked with Will Smith. Don't forget.
Oh no, shit! I didn't know. All right, so let's move up to that.
Did he smack you?
Yeah, I wore a hockey mask.
So Ron, let's go back. Let's go back a few years, and like I said, now I mean, again, you've got a stellar career.
Thank you.
A lot of great runs, legendary runs. Worked with great artists. Great writers.
I don't know how it happens. Sometimes I look back and I go, man, I feel fortunate. I feel blessed because there's guys who there's so many guys in the business who are far greater than I'll ever be, and I happen to position myself and it really is just from hard work. You know, I've always worked really hard and been very professional and trying to get the stuff done. But I think one of the other things is that I don't deliberately try to reinvent myself, but I definitely am a restless spirit artistically. And so I don't just fall on one thing and just get stale. You know, I'm always trying different things. So I think the only way I can analyze it is that I have a good ability to tend to make people look back and go, oh, what's this he's doing now? You know,
Yeah.
as opposed to just getting stale on some style that I learned and then because that can really affect your career long term if you don't try to try different things. I think try to stay fresh and different, but it has to be out of the love of doing it. I like the adventure of going in there and trying. I'll do, I was doing just scanned pencils for a bit because I just like the artistic look of them. I think they're extraordinarily beautiful if done right. They can look really sloppy if not done right. But man, you get some color on there and it looks like colored pencil and it's really done well. And I think it's gorgeous, a gorgeous thing that really.
Ron, you know what? I'm the same way. And I've been kind of doing it since like 96, more so than not. I like inking and stuff like that too. I just love, the final product when it's inked, it just looks classic comics.
Yeah, for sure.
But when you go from, say, your pencils, right, to color, and today with today's printing, you don't need that black line. You know what I mean? Around someone's hand, you don't need that. And I think you get
bending wire around form.
Yep. Exactly. And if you get a good colorist, then it could look like watercolor, but it also has almost to me that look like, like Disney, look at the animation, right? Like Disney animation before the Ink Girls got to it. Remember the inking? They call it Ink Girls, guys, you don't know. So they had this stunning animation by the nine old men. You look at anything from, and there's this, a lot of this exists from, or even just stills, you could see Snow White and, in the Seven Dwarfs, a Dumbo, to a lot
weird.
Yeah. Yeah, why did you put that chick on that, Scala?
Because it's weird, bro.
I can't even.
Weird,
dude. How fun? Do you see that one meme that shows up and the new Disney Snow White, and it's Gal Gadot, and it's a shot of Gal Gadot, and she's like, she's jealous of this one's looks.
Yeah.
You know what? Honestly, I'm so disappointed in her anyway for even entertaining that nonsense. Like she's actually supporting that stupid stuff coming out of her mouth. Like she was, when she was saying all that, Gal was standing right next to her nodding, like, and I get it because Gal's in it, so she probably wants to. But it really blew up because I guess the girl got fired, right?
Supposedly she got. Well, they're not. Nothing's been confirmed yet, but it's been a lot of sources have leaked that they've fired her. But then the speculation is, would Disney waste all that money? Which I'm sure they would.
Reshoot everything.
Yeah, but Iger posted that article last week or something. People doing the article on it where he's like, we're pulling out of agendas, we're pulling out of all this stuff. We need to focus on making good content again. Yeah. So people are reading into that as I think a lot of that has to do with the Snow White stuff as well. Plus, just the poor. I mean, they're losing billions of dollars.
Well, it started with Star Wars.
Yep.
Just started taking a downward spiral after that. But I could see it in a lot of their kids' movies. A lot of that stuff was being injected in, even in stuff like Wreck-It Ralph, or and then the third, what was it? Lightning McQueen movie. What? Cars.
Cars.
Yeah. Oh yeah. See the stuff they were slipping, starting, and then it got worse and worse and worse. And now it's just culminated where they're just. That's all they're doing, They're not telling good stories, and it's not stuff that people want to go and be uncharmed by. Part of the appeal of Disney was its charm, its innocence and its charm. And instead, you got people coming in there trying to peel away layers that don't exist and say, this is what this means, and this is what that means. Yeah. But you're looking at it through a lens of your own insecurity or your own paranoia or indoctrination or any of these things. None of these things are what they think they are.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. I could project any of my bullshit that I experienced growing up onto anything and say that's valid, But these people, they don't realize that that they don't have the ability to see beyond that. and see that maybe I'm projecting, you know.
Yeah.
Well, that's all they do is project, because it doesn't make it true because you say
Exactly. It doesn't
it
make
doesn't make it freaking true.
Anyway, I interrupted you, and you were going on a nice point about, you know.
Well, I wanted to get to like I said, you're at this point now, and again, I'm real happy for you. And well deserved, dude.
I'm really happy for me.
I'm really no, I am.
You're like, you look at my picture. I love that guy.
Love that guy. Yeah.
There's a picture of you on the dash in his truck.
Yeah.
That Ron.
He's like, I'm gonna make it a Garney day.
I'm gonna make it a Garney day. Let's make this a Garney day. Because I heard I like that you picked up Keanu Reeves, and I've heard that you've picked up other comic people in the past, like at parties and stuff.
Oh.
That's just between us. Sorry, guys.
Oh, that story. Yeah, that was
good times, man. Those are good times.
You know Nelson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Nelson was a big arbiter in that. He was shoving some tequila down my throat, and the rest was history.
He's pure evil. That's why.
I'm blaming it on him.
Blame it on Nelson and the tequila.
that was something.
That's a story that, yeah.
As schnockered as I was, I remember every moment of it. So anyway,
good times, man. See, these are the stories, guys, that if you go to a con and we're out smoking cigars or we're hanging out outside drinking scotch, you can ask those.
And you'll hear about it, yeah.
You'll hear about it, and everybody knows about it. But I guess
I actually felt bad.
You can't say certain things, but
I felt very bad about it. I was sincere about that, you know, because it's, you know, no matter what, how much you're joking, in your head and heart, you're kind of just joking around or whatever, and it seems, in that person's head, it could be traumatic, you know.
Oh yeah. See, the funny thing is, if you do that to me,
right,
you should be laughing every time about like, holy shit.
We'd probably be rolling around the ground, tussling, whatever.
Yeah. But
you do it to somebody else, and you don't know how they're going to react. You know, it's like, it was traumatic. I mean, I got phone calls when I got home. Ron, give me a call. It's the talk of the industry, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I remember that actually the next morning, it was one of those things. You open your eyes, you're laying in bed. I open my eyes in the hotel room, and I'm like, and you forget for a minute. And then I go, oh, shit. Did I really do what I did?
All right.
So then I went back to the con, and then I looked, and I could see everybody staring at me weird. And like, I'm like, oh, man, this is not good. And then when I got home, I had all these messages on my machine from a ton of people.
Hashtag legend.
Yeah. That's definitely nuts.
So the point of the story is,
even that night, I threw a dead freaking raven at Adam Kuber out in front. Ask Adam about that.
So if you got a guy like Adam, so for you guys out there are a bunch of us who became friends, right? When I got in '94, and I became immediately friends with Ron and a bunch of the other guys, and we're all kind of like the same people. So we're a good time, right? We like having fun and stuff like that, and you know, we're not really insecure people at all. We're just regular dudes and girls, you know. And but sometimes there might be some of them people that may be real powerful in the industry, and they're not that.
No.
And they just happen to want to hang out with us, and then shit happens, and that's basically what happens. And like,
it was a bit of a. It was like all of a sudden the person was back in the position, you know, because this was a very powerful person in the industry at the time.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, just because of my drunken stupor and my, it was sort of brought back, I think, to a place where, you know, and I remember like people were calling me a bully, and I really wasn't.
Oh God, come on.
It was just like, you know, I was just having a good time, man.
Yeah.
And it all started because the way he shook my hand.
And this is why the industry changed, because of people's childhood trauma.
Yeah, but we were also selling millions of copies. You know?
I will say, I don't want to ever step back from my position when it happened afterwards about being apologetic to him, because I truly meant what I said, that I felt bad when, you know, because it's not you can't just do that to people and not, you know. And so if I hurt somebody's feelings or whatever, of course I feel badly about that. So I know I don't want to back away from my position, make fun of it, but it was an interesting evening.
Yeah,
so.
No, you felt awful. You really did. But it was a lot of fun. You know, all of us were snickering about it. It's just the one person. And again, you see, in our industry, especially back then, you had some people that were really powerful.
Yeah.
Like,
and they were controlling people's careers with
yes, yes.
you know,
And then
it was kind of a frustrating position to be in, to think that your career could be made or broken at the behest of this magazine, or like, and it was just really
editors, all that. Yeah. And you, if you had an editor that didn't like you for one reason, they could just destroy you. They would just,
it was a really low area, I think, in the industry. As much as things were selling big and things like that, it also interestingly and conversely, if you looked at it through that lens, was also the most shallow time in our industry.
Yeah.
Because that was that kind of shallowness, being on lists and things like that could make or break your career. It's a very shallow thing.
Yeah.
Popularity contest. It's everything we try to get away from and try, and our work should rise above popularity contests. It should be about the craft, that your love for it, telling good stories and all these things, and instead it wasn't at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think, like, because of that time period, because I'm assuming you guys are talking in the 90s here, like that's the time I think like comic artists especially were like rock stars, like on Entertainment Tonight, on like all the major news platforms, doing Calvin Klein commercials.
There was no girl.
What's that?
There was no hot cosplay chicks.
No. But it was like, I think though that probably has to add to that, to the power that's going through. When you've got, editors and things, working with guys that are just like it was. I mean, lines out the door, comic shop lines, blocks of people. I mean, it was a different time.
I remember talking to Jim Lee about that. I worked in his studio for a bit way back, and or maybe it wasn't at the studio. He was telling me, but I ran into him somewhere and we were talking, and he was telling me how it affected his ego. He said he had a hard time with it because he said, he would go to do a store sign. They'd have to call in like the National Guard because there were lines going all around the city blocks in New York to see him, So he said it definitely affected him, but he snapped out of it over time,
Mm-hmm.
It's like anything. I think you can see the effect of fame on plenty of people. It's like Keanu's sort of an interesting cat because he's probably, I would say, the only guy who navigates it better than anyone I've ever seen in Hollywood, because he just goes out there and just, hey, what's going on? He'll go have a hot dog right in the street, and he doesn't act pretentious or oh, get away from me or any of that. He just go ride on the subway, or he'll go, and he just navigates the world as himself, and he doesn't really. And it's interesting because of human nature. If you notice, like the paparazzi tend to go after guys harder who try to avoid them.
Yeah.
And he doesn't. He just say, hey, what's up? And then, so they don't really have anything to grab onto, that taps into that button, that human nature where you have to, it's the cat and mouse game,
Yeah.
And I think I think he said he has no problem navigating. I think he does it on purpose like that, so.
Well, they get paid by the pictures they take, that for paparazzi and stuff. It's, like Peter Parker getting paid for his pictures, for reference of Spider-Man. But, that's what they get. So if he's just out eating fucking hot dogs and anyone can take pictures of him, then why is the paparazzi going to go after him? That makes his photo less valuable.
Hey, guys, not to switch gears real quick, but I wanted to say one quick thing. And I don't mean to get heavy for a second, but my father, whose name I have, a couple days ago passed away.
Oh, no.
I'm so sorry.
So,
oh, my God. I'm sorry. Shit.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Definitely.
Salute,
Cheers
brother.
to that.
Jeez.
Salute.
It's a long story, but he was not my blood father. But he was the guy whose name I had because he was married to mine. It's a long story, but it's sad. So just wanted to have a drink, a toast to him, to Ron Garney Sr.
Here.
Cheers.
Yeah. Here.
All right. So back to the other stuff.
What sucks is that just to get back that now, Nile, you're young, but like with me, you see people like Ryan, guys our age. A lot of our friends, kids are like getting married now.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. But you also see a lot of our parents. We're at that age, and a lot of our parents are getting sick. They're passing away. We're just seem to be at that
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And it's like, it's
and our contemporary, like you know, John Paul Leon. You know,
yeah.
and I mean, it's just like mind blowing. You're just like, what? Or you know, there's so much. Tom Palmer just passed.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, we've sort of replaced them now. You know, where we were looking at them at one point. Maybe not John Paul because he was young, but you know, guys like Tom Palmer. But we're sort of in their station now where we were looking at them at one point. So
yeah. You know what's even weird? Like someone like when Herb Trimpe passed away. I had seen him at MegaCon. He was at MegaCon with us. I think we all went to dinner. You know, just a great guy, you know, Herb Trimpe. And he would run and stuff like that. And then a few weeks later, he passed away. He went for a jog. He went for a run. Like he would do every morning or something like that. I mean, if you remember her, you know, he was real thin, you know, tall, wiry guy. And they said that after his run, he went inside, made himself a nice scotch, you know, a glass of scotch, and sat outside and had a heart attack and passed away on his front porch. And you're like, oh.
As we're sitting here drinking all this shit.
Yeah, right. I do.
Don't exercise, people.
Hey, cheers, guys.
Yeah. Well, here's to your dad, bro.
I'm out of here.
Cheers.
Yeah.
I need a refill. I gotta get some scotch.
Thank you all. I see all your condolences. Thank you very much. I appreciate that very much. To all of you, much love. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And that does solve the question of your birth dad, that you really are.
What's that?
Elvis Aaron Presley.
It's funny. My 8-year-old daughter loves listening to Elvis. You know, because I play it sometimes in my Jeep. We're driving along, and I put on like, you know, Good Luck Charm or something.
Yeah.
Daddy, and she loves Johnny Cash, so I'm raising her right.
Yeah, you are. Heck yeah.
Nice. It's my favorite stuff. So
yeah, my kids too. They love like Johnny Cash, Elvis, all that. I remember my son was listening to the Rolling Stones. And I walk in his room. I'm like, bro, you listen to the Rolling Stones like that?
You don't have access to anything good now. I mean, there's literally nothing good on the radio. It's all processed bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, these music corporations, they fast food it. How many times have you guys seen top selling 100 artists so and so at the Grammy, and you're like, who?
Yeah, who the
yeah.
In the last 2 days, all of a sudden they made them these superstars, and they're not. They're just, it's just packaged bullshit.
Yeah,
because they're not having artists who are writing their own stuff. That, you know, and because of, you know, unfortunately the streaming and the access to the music for free and everything else, it's kind of destroyed the, you know, that. So all these guys have to go out and play in concert to make money now.
Yeah.
But these companies aren't doing that. They're not going around like talent scouts and really finding the real writers, songwriters, and things like that, and pushing them through and really putting them on, you know, on the stage, you know, like they did. Well, even Nirvana, you know, that was probably one of the last big bands.
Yeah, them and Pearl Jam. You think about it, right? Yeah, and then I mean, like, I love My Chemical Romance. I think them too. You know, Green Day. That's late. That's 25 years ago. All that shit.
I know. I mean, think about that. And then 25 years before that was what? That was 1969, 1970. You know, so it's weird that there are kids alive now who, to them, Nirvana is a band like we looked at before we were born. You know,
right?
Like Buddy Holly or something. You know. Something like that.
That's the crazy thing, Ron. So when we were young, right, and we're listening to, I don't know, give us a freaking band.
The Beach Boys.
I saw the Beach Boys. I saw the Beach Boys live. But you think of when we're young and we're listening to, say, Rush. I don't know if you like Rush, right?
Love Rush.
Right, Rush is 1982, right? 81. You think 20 years before that? Right? You think what was 20 years ago, Scala? What is that?
20 years ago?
2003.
2003.
Right, 2003. 20 years
Justin
for
Timberlake going solo.
Okay, Justin Timberlake is when I'm in high school or junior high, 2000 and 20 years earlier, it was like the Everly Brothers. You know,
you guys want to hear something?
The Beatles.
You guys want to hear something cool? cool though.
Yeah.
So when I did Men of Wrath, it was going to be a TV show. It was bought up by the USA Network and everything. It was all set to go, and then Paramount picked it up after that. But I've been in bands. I had a band. I'm a songwriter, play piano, bass, drums, guitar.
Oh, no shit.
And so I wrote a song that I was hoping I could get on for the opening credits. You know who Chris Daughtry is?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I got him to sing it. You want to hear it?
Yeah, bro. Are
Yeah.
you kidding me?
All right. Hopefully, we'll be able to hear it. No, that's not it. That's the wrong one.
Wrong one? All right, hit the right one.
This is the wrong. God damn it.
You can stop it.
There we go. I got to find the right one. Where is it? Where is it? This one? Nope, that's not it. Where did it go? I lost it.
Dude, you better find it now. I'm too
Yeah.
involved.
No, everyone's waiting in anticipation.
Here it is. I got it. Okay. I probably shouldn't be doing this on a public thing, but fuck it. Because it's not going I wrote this whole thing.
I've seen a poor boy lying in the streets.
You can make it louder.
I've seen his mother begging just to eat. You can hear them cry. And you wonder
Badass.
why.
This part don't
You wrote this, bro?
I have heard the rush of sirens rolling by. You always get to wonder where they go and why angels fly. And you wonder why. Dreamers torn asunder, and a child's left with light in the dark. The guilt is fair, it seems, that occupies my dreams. For all the faces, for all the places, for all the pain that I have seen. The truth is they're unclean. The blood is kerosene. Burns the traces and burn the faces and raise the ghosts that haunt me now.
Woo!
What? Bro?
The guilt is fair, it seems. I'm drinking kerosene. Burn the places, kill the traces of all the hell that I have seen. The truth is there, see. My blood is kerosene. I torch the places and raise the faces and scorch the world as it comes down. I felt the cold winds blowing from the north. I have felt the thunder rage before the storm as your life bleeds dry. And you wonder why.
Dude, you got to be kidding me.
So you wrote all you wrote the lyrics, the music, everything?
I wrote the lyrics. It started out as a piano song. I actually, it started out as a slow piano song, and then I came up with this thing on the guitar, on one of my guitars. Here, I have a guitar right next to me, actually. And I'm like, I need lyrics for that. And then I was like, let me try that piano song I wrote with the lyrics from that. And then that evolved from that. And that's it. And it actually it starts out because I remember when I went out to Tijuana in 1990. And
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
Yeah. And I remember it starts out a little bit of that is in there because I was so struck by all these people laying in the streets, these mothers with their children. And it's a little bit about that, and it's a little bit about some personal stuff in my head. You know, my blood is kerosene, meaning I want to burn the motherfuckers who fuck up children, and stuff like that. I want to kill them, And that's kind of what it's about, like, because kids are off limits in my opinion. So it's a little bit about all that, all the things I've seen, in my life. So, but anyway, regardless, and Men of Wrath was a serious, Southern crime story, and it kind of fit perfectly for it, and that the first True Detective. I don't know if you ever watched True Detective.
Yeah.
In that vein, the opening credits, so I sent it to Chris, and he loved it, and he was willing to sing on it. He wanted to be on the show, obviously, too. So he sang it, and so I have this song. It's a feather in my cap, and probably never get recorded, or put on the radio or anything, but it's fun to have somebody of that caliber sing it. He freaking knocked it out of the park. It sounds so good. So yeah, so thought you'd enjoy hearing that.
Holy
That
shit,
was
dude.
awesome.
Holy
Because you can do, there a lot of a lot of independent comic creators. A lot of them are musicians, and they've actually been putting out books with soundtracks.
Yeah. Well, that was sort of the idea with this, with Wrath and doing this. If it made it into the title credits, which it looked like the showrunner was really interested in doing, but he was willing to talk to the music guy, the music supervisor. He was actually the one who had the okay on it. But it looked like it was going to go that route, so it was like this close. But then what happened was the Me Too fucking movement. And so it kicked it right out of USA Network, because there were these two feminist executives, I guess, in New York, who, and this is what the guy told one of our producers who was on it. He said, just because it said men in the title, they didn't want to make it.
Holy shit.
Oh
You know what, bro? But
Because of the Harvey Weinstein shit.
Right.
So I'm like, what? Are you kidding? After all these years of trying to get something made, that's what they're not going to make it over? You fucking
dude, you got a great end. You got a brother that's on the inside over there. So maybe
who?
talk to him with Keanu with the films, and maybe
Keanu's heard it, and he's but he's got his own stuff. It's Hollywood is messed up, and Keanu even doesn't know the next thing he's going to be doing. And he did read Men of Wrath, and I asked him. I said, once the Paramount thing fell through, because Taylor Sheridan came in with 1883, I guess. So because they had Yellowstone was made.
Yeah.
And Paramount picked up Men of Wrath, and they were ready to make that, but then he came in with 1883 and a couple other projects, and the other one with Harrison Ford. So
1923.
Yeah, so they just dumped Men of Wrath because they said it was too similar in tone, and I think they just were going to give Taylor Sheridan anything he wanted because of the success of Yellowstone.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's where that went after that, and so then I asked Keanu after that happened. I asked Keanu, I said, are you, would you be interested in maybe doing it? He said, he's got too many other things going on. So who knows, maybe something will happen with it someday, but for now it's just pretty much shelved indefinitely. So many bites on it though, Robert De Niro made us an offer on it, but his offer was lower than the standard of Hollywood. So we didn't go with that.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. He really lowballed us.
So do you guys still, if you don't mind me asking, do you guys still have the right to shop it around, or is Paramount?
Yeah, oh yeah, no, they optioned it, and then they gave up the option. We got paid as free money. I mean, you get free money for it for the option, but that ran out, so we could shop it around again, but we just haven't really. We kind of just everybody got involved in their other things, and so I don't know if anything will ever happen with it.
Now, do you have time to still write? Do you have time to still write music? I mean, I know how busy you are, and how prolific you are, but do you still, like you said, you got your guitar right there? Do you still?
Yeah, I still write. I mean, I had back when I had a band back 20 years ago. We were playing all over Connecticut here, and we recorded a couple CDs. There's nothing like that, I gotta say, when you're out there on stage and people are singing the songs. I was predominantly the songwriter of our band, so I wrote, we had a couple of CDs we made, and So I've always been writing songs. I wrote a lot on piano. I write little things on the piano all the time that I keep saying I'm going to get back to that one, and I go back to them. I'm like, wow, that's really pretty good. I should get back to it, and just never have the time. So
Yeah.
it's like anything in life, and I always tell people this. No matter what, you have to make a decision. If you want to be successful at anything, you have to make a decision to commit to that 100%. You can't do like I'm not gonna be hugely successful at that songwriting unless I give all this other shit up and go with that.
Yeah.
And go. And I have some talent in it, I think, and I could, but this, I became a comic artist, and that's here I am. So I mean, and I was committed to it 100%. So I think it's like anything. If I were going to do that, I'd have to really just commit to that 100%.
So
now, was that always your goal? Like growing up, was it always your goal to be a comic book artist, or was music a passion too?
No, I honestly, I would have rather, I wanted to be a musician. I remember my mother, I remember I wanted to be in a band. Like my mother was like, told me to grow up, and, typical story, like grow up, you're never going to make it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like Kristen Wiig. Did you ever see the Dewey Cox story?
Yeah.
With Kristen Wiig, and she keeps telling him, you're never going to make it. She's supposed to be the supportive wife. And he's like, he's narrating. He's going, I'm so glad I have a supportive wife. And it cuts to her going, you're never going to make it.
Oh my God.
So it's kind of like that, So but I was good at art too. And so I just kind of went in that direction. But I originally was a painter like Frazetta,
no shit.
Yeah, I had tons of paintings and stuff, fantasy art, and I wanted to be a paperback cover illustrator like he did, and Boris, and Michael Whalen, and Don May, all these guys, the Hildebrandt brothers. They were all doing that stuff back then. Kelly.
So let me ask something. So how did you find your way to comics? Like, did you go to art school? Art school. Like, what's the evolution?
It fell into my lap accidentally. Really, it was kind of serendipitous. I went to school for art and psychology, and so I was but I managed nightclubs. I owned a cleaning service. I did all kinds of different things. But while I was bartending one night at this restaurant, the other bartender happened to have a comic in his hand, and it was Secret Wars that Mike Zeck drew. And I hadn't read comics since I was a kid. I had forgotten all about comic books. And so I picked it up and I was looking through. I'm like, holy shit, this is the coolest shit ever. I forgot all about these, And so I asked him where he got the comic. He said it was at a 24-hour store down the street. And I toyed with I love photography. I love composition. I toyed with the idea of getting into movies because I love storytelling and things like that. And here, all that was in a comic book. I was like, wow, all that's here in a comic. I never really realized it before, because I was older and I had a smarter sensibility. It was more, I could intellectualize the comic book that way that I hadn't when I was young. So I ran down to the store and I started looking through all the comics, and I picked up Frank Miller, and I was looking at John Byrne actually, and a bunch of different things. And I picked up a bunch, and I got kind of hooked right away. And then it turns out I asked the guy behind the counter, how do you get into it? And he pointed at the shelf, and there was a big oversized book on the shelf called the Marvel Tryout Contest. And it was an oversized book that Marvel put out. They were looking for talent, like talent scouting, the music industry would do. And so in it, they had full-size 11x17 Bristol board. They had pages you could ink that John Major Jr. drew, and then they had blank boards that you could draw off a script. And then you could color, and you could do all this stuff in this one book. And then you had to enter this contest by a certain deadline, and they were going to pick a winner. So I slaved over this thing, and I sent it in like the day before the deadline. So I'm sure I didn't even get there. Great day, but I got a rejection letter, and it turned out Mark Bagley won it.
Yeah.
So, but it kind of lit a fire into me. I was like, oh, I'm not going to stop. Just the fact that I got a letter from Marvel made it real for me, because back then getting to Marvel seemed like going to the Land of Oz or something.
Yeah.
Marvel seemed like Emerald City to me. It was just Marvel. so big and unattainable, you know. But getting a letter from them, it was kind of lit a fire in me to keep going after it. So I did. And it turned out, I found out, though, talking to the guy, that Mike Zack, it turns just so happened he lives 6 minutes from my house.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and he's the guy whose comic I picked up that got me back into it. So I looked I was like, what? And I looked in the phone book, and there he was, Mike Zack on Lake Street in West Haven. And I lived literally 6 minutes down the road.
Oh, that's cool.
And I was like, what are the odds of that? You know, so I called him up, left him a message on his answer machine, and he called me back. I didn't think he would, but he did. He said, yeah, you know, send me your stuff through the mail. And so I did. And he called me back again. And he actually said, you know, I think you're pretty good. And he goes, and then he gave me some pointers. He said, you need to work on this, this, and this. And I'm like, great. So in the meantime, while I was working on stuff, he started coming to my bar, and I would get him drinks. And then he invited me to play volleyball and go to a convention out here with him. And he asked me to sit behind the table and draw with him because he thought I was good enough to draw for fans. And so I'm like, oh, and it was just
Did
really
he put you on the volleyball team because you're like a big dude, so you're like the ringer?
Yeah, dude, you have no idea, man. They got mad at me because I would spike the ball all the time. It was like in slow motion, like, and I accidentally hit one of the guys in the face, and the girl, his girlfriend, came running over across the net. She's like, "We were all here before you. Who do you think you are?"
Oh my god! Like,
I'm like, well, I'm just playing because I was bigger than them, and I was athletic.
Yeah.
Things like that, and it pissed them off.
you're playing against.
So again, I was the big bully. You
Yeah.
Bully. I wasn't trying to be. I was just having a good time, and everybody looked at the girl like, "Man, relax," But after that, it got real cold. So the volleyball game, I didn't go over there too much more after that. But yeah, that's how it played out. And then finally, he called me up. He said, "Listen, I'm going to Marvel on Wednesday. Would you like to come in?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, of course." So Mike took me in with this other guy named Larry Alexander, who was showing his stuff around. And we went to DC first, I think. And DC right away offered me Animal Man. They saw my page. They're like, "Oh, would you like to draw Animal Man as a regular book?" I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah." I couldn't even believe it. I'm like, "What? This is happening?" So, and this is the same guy whose comic I picked up.
Yeah.
Behind the bar, the guy, Mike Zack, and he's the one bringing me into Marvel. I mean, how fucked up is that? What are the odds of that?
Yeah, but you're a talented guy, though, too. Nothing.
I guess. I mean,
up your ass.
I don't think he would have brought me in if I wasn't, but it was still just the fact that it was him, So, yeah, they offered me Animal Man. Grant Morrison was writing it, but it was on the condition that I made the deadline, so they gave me 8 pages, and I had to bring him in the following week. So I did.
Oh.
And I brought him in, and I pulled all-nighters and stuff trying to get it done. And but then when I got there, they said, "Well, we hate to tell you this. We're gonna pay you for these pages, but the guy who turned it down originally changed his mind." I guess this guy Chaz Truog was the artist.
Oh, fucking Chaz.
Do you know? Yeah.
Chaz, man.
It's always Chaz.
It's always Chaz. If it's not Chaz, it's Brad.
It's Chaz or Chad.
Or Dean.
Yeah, Chad, yeah.
It's always a Chud or a Chad or Chaz. So, yeah, well, my middle name's Dean. So,
sorry.
Good one, Billy.
Yeah, thanks.
Ring the bell.
Here. Ding. Ding. So in the meantime, I went over to Marvel. Actually, I had gone over to Marvel as well, and I talked to Ralph Macchio and Bobby Chase and Danny Fingeroth and all these, they all. And by the time I got home, I had all these offers on my answering machine. So I got offered Moon Knight. I got offered G.I. Joe. Well, I actually got offered G.I. Joe first. That was the first thing I accepted.
What year is this, Ron?
89.
Okay.
So, so I agreed to do that, and then and that was an eye opener. It almost scared me away from doing it because it was so much work because they had a license with Hasbro,
Oh yeah.
And I had to do every vehicle exactly right and all the figures in the car. I'm like, what the hell? I'd never.
Now you were a painter, like you had mentioned, Frazetta, Boris,
Yeah.
Hildebrandt. Did you have comic book influences? Like, did you look at sites to say Mike? Did you look at other guys? Like, okay, like what kind of
Well, you know,
style? You know,
yeah,
the style.
yeah. I looked at comic books, but they were very early on when I was very young, like in the late '60s, like Kirby stuff. I remember that stuff. And then towards the mid '70s, I remember looking at Spidey super stories or things like that, and a couple Iron Mans. But where I lived was very recluse, and I didn't have access to a comic book shop. I lived down the country, and so I did get a hold of like tons of creepies and eerie's and Vampirellas and the Monster Times. I was into Godzilla and Star Trek, all that stuff.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah.
And so I was reading all that, and I just remember thinking how, like the guy who illustrated, what was it, Gonzalez or something?
Jose Gonzalez?
Yeah, who did it?
Vampirella? Oh,
yeah. I couldn't believe how awesome an illustrator. Like that to me was real illustration. You know, it was in the way you look at Sergio Topi, you know, you just can't believe it. You know, it's just so amazing from a different, you know, universe in a way. And so because I was an artist and I was always drawing, even when I was young, I mean, I kind of could see the difference. So I wasn't really looking. So the comics kind of seemed a little bit more rudimentary to me as compared to like Gonzalez doing Vampirella. And it wasn't until I got older that I started really growing the appreciation more for Kirby. And, you know, once I started drawing it, I started understanding, seeing the genius behind all of it, you know, as opposed to just the beauty of, you know, a beautiful chick being drawn by Gonzalez.
Yeah.
Or, you know, or even like Rich Corbin or Mobius. I was looking at them, heavy metal and stuff like that. So I was looking at the stuff, but wasn't looking at Marvel's guys so much anymore. But I do remember Buscema and things like that. So, but it was, again, you know, that's where I spent the most of my attention, was looking at that stuff, as opposed to the comics, which were very early on, and I was much younger. So, yeah. So that's basically my story. And here I am talking to you guys.
You made it to the big time now, Ron.
Yeah. Well, you got a storied career then, right? So, I mean, you're kicking ass. I remember the time when they decided to do The Heroes Reborn, and you know, we were riding high with She, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna try to find Fighting American. I'm gonna see if I can hire Ron and Mark to write Fighting American and launch it the same.
Oh, I kind of remember that. Yeah.
Remember I talked to you, and you're like, I don't know, and to launch it the same, and launch it against, because the whole comic book industry apparently was against them doing Heroes Reborn. And then I remember just shit from people talking to me like, dude, Marvel owns that. There's no way you can get that character. And you know, and this is before the internet. So I couldn't find, you know, Golden Age, you know, public domain, you know what I mean? You know, like other Captain America type characters. But what a great idea. And that was my idea, to get you and Mark. And I remember, Mark, I don't know if you remember, Ron, we're hanging out at the bar. I'm like, you guys can do whatever the fuck you want. I don't care. You just keep telling that story, and we'll go head to head with them, and we'll beat them. And then I got, you know, then all the smarty pants is like, you can't do that, you can't go get, and so.
Yeah, well, you know, you do it, and then you worry about the repercussions after. You know, your mistake was asking anyone.
That's exactly what it was. Yeah. That's exactly what it was. And then I heard that the Kirby estate owned Fighting American, because then Liefeld got fired, Rob got or left doing that job, and then did Fighting American or one of the other characters. You know,
he did. Yeah.
He used all his pages that weren't filled, and I'm like, shit. And I'm like, you know what? I'm freaking right again. I'm tired of talking to you people.
Well, it's funny too that you would even be warned off of that, considering that's how Image made their bones anyway. It was just, I mean, Spawn is just Thor and Spider-Man and Venom and, you know, Doctor Strange and Ghost Rider all rolled into one character.
Yeah.
That's why it's called Spawn. Todd was smart enough to just take them all, where you couldn't really pin it on one.
Exactly.
The rip off of this one. Yeah. No, he took a bit of all of them. That way he could get away with, oh, no, it's not that. It's, you know, it's all these other, you can't pin it on one character.
Can't pin it. Yep.
About it.
Now, Ron, look at this one from Herrenberg. Thanks, Herrenberg. Good to see you, buddy. Fun fact, according to Comic Vine, the title Ron Garney did the most was Daredevil.
It is? Really? You know, it was weird. My career, It was like being on a roller coaster early on. You know, it wasn't my doing that I was on and off books. It was Marvel doing that. You know, I wanted to stay on tap for a long time, you know, but I was always getting offered things. It was weird. It was like playing Super Mario or something, or jumping from this level to this level. And you have to make shrewd business decisions in addition to doing good work, you know. And so I would get offered these things that was always one more step up, you know. So I started out with G.I. Joe. Then I got offered Moon Knight, you know, and to me it was like, okay, I've got a regular book and Tom Palmer was going to ink it, you know, and I was like, oh, Tom Palmer, my God, the guy who inked John Buscema, are you kidding? Of course, you know, of course I want to work with him. And so I jumped on that. And then I got offered, you know, this big push called the Midnight Suns. It was a big push. They, 94, I think it was, or 93, where it was their supernatural section of the universe, Marvel Universe. They were going to bring all these titles in. So it was Night Stalkers and Morbius and Ghost Rider and, you know, a couple others, Darkhold, I think it was. And so Spirits of Vengeance that Adam Kubert drew. Yeah. So anyway, so I got asked to do Night Stalkers. And so Tom and I did that, and it was a huge success. You know, it sold like 500,000 copies, the first one, which was good. You know, it's not the 7.5 million that Jim sold or Todd, you know,
right.
But still, for a supernatural book at that time, it was good, and everything was speculation at that point. So that's what was driving sales up. But then after that, I got offered Ghost Rider, and of course, that's another step in that direction. It just kept taking the titles that were a little better. Then after that, I got offered X-Men. You know. And so I just kept, you know, making those shrewd decisions, and and then but I would stay on them for a while. By the time I got to X-Men, that was a whole different animal, because I couldn't believe how competitive everybody was for it. You know, people were willing to throw you under whatever bus they could to get at that book because of how much money it made. You know, it's like anything. You know, the most food wins. You know, and that was making the most money. And so it was really difficult. And Bob Harris was a very fickle guy. You know, he would love you one day, and then he kind of would not. He would change his mind the next day, you know. And so he'd say, "Oh, I want you to draw." I remember him coming up to me in San Diego, and he put his arm around me. How do you like Ghost Rider, Ron? Are you happy on that? I'm like, well, yeah, I guess. Why? He goes, how do you feel about doing X-Men?
Cool.
Because JR is not going to be on it much longer. And I'm like, what? You're offering me that? And JR to me was, you know, it still is. It's just phenomenal. So, so I was honored to even be thought of, you know, for that. But then it was like funny because he must have changed his mind, because I would go to Marvel and he would see me and he'd sort of walk the other direction kind of thing, like, you know, because he knew he had changed his mind about it. And that's fine. And so finally I cornered him in his office and said, look, I don't mind if you changed your mind. I said, but at least have the balls to sit me down or look me in the eye and say, hey, I changed my mind. Don't just avoid me. You know, I get that it's an uncomfortable conversation to have, but just be, you know, from that
man,
boy, you're a
be a
big
man.
Boy.
Yeah, be a man.
Yeah.
So,
well, they're so used to, you know, dealing with like beta type people.
I guess.
You know, it's almost like dealing with children. You know,
well, actually, you know, it's funny, and I didn't realize it at the time how I must have come across, because I caught him in his office, and so I think one of the assistant editor was in there, and I walked in and I said to the editor, I said, I want to have a word with Bob alone, and he walked out, and I locked the door behind him. and this is no lie. You're gonna laugh at this. So after it, I grabbed this off his desk.
Get out of here. No shit.
So I had my talk with him. I took it off his desk and walked out. And he doesn't remember it because we talked after that. But yeah. So it was funny. Like, and I thought back, I'm like, what an asshole. What an a-hole I must have come across as. Like, such an arrogant to do that to the editor-in-chief of Marvel. But I was so mad that I felt so jerked around. Like, for me, I was just defending my own not self-esteem, but my own principles of not being treated poorly.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I didn't want to be treated poorly.
And you're a grown up. You're not
Yeah,
a child.
I'm fine. If you want to, I have no problem with you saying you changed your mind, but don't just ditch me and treat me like I don't exist now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For crying out loud. It's just, so that was the issue. And I'm not trying to disparage Bob. That was just Bob, and and it was his. I get how uncomfortable it was for him. I always liked Bob. He was he's a good guy. So, but that's what happened, and but I just think it's a funny story. I walked out with his plaque.
So
And
how do you
actually, when he
go-
was at DC, I reminded him of it. I said, "You remember when I walked out with your play?" He goes, "You did?" I'm like, "Yeah." You don't remember we had the toys? I grabbed it off your desk and I walked out with it. He's like, "No, I don't remember."
the funny thing was with me that I miss it. So like I remember when Bob moved to DC and stuff like that, and I missed all that because I would hang out with Ralph Macchio in his office and all, because I would just go there with Jimmy. You know what I mean? Because I was doing my own thing. So I just got to meet these guys like regular guys and just laughing. And the stories I'd hear, like how Macchio hated freaking Shooter.
Oh yeah.
Despised him. And then you just hear all these crazy stories, and I'm just sitting there like a little fucking kid, like Jimmy's like, you didn't hear that. I'm like, "Oh,
It's like, it's funny. I don't like talking about people. If I have anything to say, I'll say it to your face.
absolutely, yeah.
I won't disparage people behind their back, and there's a lot of that goes on in this industry. Probably too much, I think.
Yeah.
I've been on message boards, parts of groups that I've left the groups because they do that, and it's like, I've seen guys disparaging other guys' artwork who are prominent artists, but they won't say, look, man, everybody has their faults, man. You can't to go on there and say, well, look at this crap. Look at the way he did the composition on this, blah, blah. I'm like, come on, just stop it. Don't do that. You know what I mean? Because you're any one of us can have our shit torn apart very easily by anyone. If and you should always be humble in that regard.
But they also see this, because I've gone through this and we've had these conversations before, and I've had some trysts with people, because I don't know about you, but very rarely have I been completely satisfied with a book I've done. Like, yes, right?
Of
Or
course.
a page,
Yeah,
even.
no,
Because you got to get it done. You got to get it done. We're not fine art. We're not fine artists that we have a week to draw a fucking page. We don't have time for that. You got to get that thing done in a day or two and move on to the next page. And you got to let it go.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, and that's why we're illustrators.
I've been fortunate to try to find ways around that, because early on in my career, I definitely suffered from a lack of quality consistency. I mean, there were times when I was killing it, but then when I had to speed up, there was a huge gap in what I was capable of versus what I was doing when I was firing it in, trying to get it done. And I started resenting it for that reason, because what I started realizing is that while in the moment the editors love you for that day, oh, great job, you got it in, you got it done. In the long run, they weren't looking at you; they were looking at the guy who was good.
Right.
And that's the lesson I learned. Is like, so I had to find a way, because I noticed it in my career. Like, I would do good work, and it would get noticed. People would be talking about it, whatever. But then I'd have to turn all this stuff in, and then I would get replaced by somebody hotter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, and that happened on Cap. On Captain America. I mean, they begged me to come back to it, and then I was 5 issues in on the return when they, came back to Marvel from Jim and Rob and those guys. 5 issues in, and they kicked me off the book.
Jeez.
Because Andy Kubert, they wanted Andy Kubert on it, who was Bob's boy from X-Men. And Mark wanted to work with him because he was working with him on Kazar, and then they wanted to make another book called Sentinel of Liberty, which was not the flagship title. And it burned me up, but I was under contract. I could have quit, but I was under contract and I was making great money. And so I was like, I didn't have a choice,
Yeah.
And that really was, I was bitter about that. Not bitter, but and that woke me up to a lot. I realized then that, And then I got offered the Hulk and I brought John Byrne on that with me. And then once again, I was so pumped to draw Big Green Monster and get away from Cap and all the politics of it and all the crap that was happening. But then again, Byrne gets fired, so my career was always, on again, off again with all this, and I think Wizard magazine called me the human volleyball at one point.
No shit.
Yeah. So because then, I was jumping around, but it wasn't my, my doing so much at that point. It was just, then I did Surfer for a bit, So I wanted to stay on one book that I could make my own, and Hulk I was on for quite a few issues. But, and then some other things happened in my personal life after that, and everything started changing. I went to DC and, so I'm surprised that Daredevil is the longest. I didn't realize that.
So now you go from this. So you, like I said, you call you the human volleyball, whether you like it or not. You could adapt your style to each different character. You have a different approach to it. You're under deadlines, like as you were saying. It gets you get rushed. You're not completely happy with the work. What brings you now to Berserker? That you it seems you have the freedom. Well, I don't know.
I started inking myself. That was a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped going with inkers and things, and because with inkers I felt it really hampered my ability to do the work I knew I was capable, because I could see stuff in the pencils that I'd want to do if I was inking it, or things that would happen, because I know during the process of inking things happen, because it's like you're drawing again.
Yeah.
But to just turn pencils in, I had to make them sort of, inker proof. But if I had to rush it, then they're not going to be inker proof, and so the stuff would fall apart if it wasn't under the right guy.
And it was going to have Tom Palmer.
Yeah, and then you got Tom Palmer, who's really a finisher. So you're really your personality is sort of gone under him. And I loved him. It had nothing to do with him or how great an artist he was. It's just, and the same thing with Sal Buscema. I worked with Sal Buscema, and I love Sal's inks. However, I could see that I was underneath Sal in some areas. He was doing his best to make it look like me, but I was also tailoring my penciling for his inking. So, and I realized I had to stop doing that. There's no way I was going to evolve the way I needed to if I just didn't do it myself. And plus, I had the painterly background. And once I started inking myself, you can, even on that, like the Berserker, you can see my painter's background on that, even though it's pen and ink. It's not linear, it's very layered, and and there's open areas to it, and light that indicates the form. And on Daredevil, it was a different story. It was kind of that story, but I was really hooked into a style on that. I could just see it in my head, and I feel like I did the best work of my career on Daredevil, because it was post Men of Wrath when I started inking my stuff. I inked my own stuff on Men of Wrath, just went and did the whole thing myself, and everything just snapped open for me. I was able to get in there, and even if I had to turn a page in quicker, I could still finish it off in the inks and build it back up to the level of the better pages.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I can see stuff in the work as it's going along and in the inks, and cutting out white and putting in white space, and using rendering, and negative space, and all these things that you can't do when you can if you're penciling it, if you have a particular look to your work like Jim Lee or something, but that's not my instinct artistically. So I realized because I had a painter's background, I have to actually get in there with the ink, because it's like painting it in a way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what changed everything. And all of a sudden I could be myself and experiment more, and then all of a sudden things just started happening, and my work improved, and and I was much happier as an artist anyway. And I think the industry kind of noticed. I did, Savage Sword of Conan after I did Daredevil, and that got really great, feedback. And I think it was the Conan thing might have been what attracted Keanu to me, because they were talking about, I guess Berserker was sort of in the works for like a year. I didn't know anything about it, but then I knew I was going to leave Marvel. I was working on Juggernaut, and I wanted to go do my own thing. I've been with Marvel and DC for 35 years, you know.
Holy shit! Yeah.
So it was, I'm like, I'm not getting any younger. What am I doing? I'm 60. I'm going to be 60 years old soon. So I'd be 61 this month, actually.
Oh,
So
shit. When's your birthday?
20th.
Oh, all right.
Oh,
I'll send you. I'll call you on your birthday. Send you that for your birthday.
they're almost like, oh, he's over the hill.
Yeah, because I'm so young.
Yeah. How old are you?
50. I just turned 57 last month.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
The fuck, how young and crazy and nuts and cool we were.
Yeah. You look back at our pictures, like, what the fuck?
I know. All right, so what brought you to this? How did you get involved in the Berserker project? How did you?
So Keanu. So anyway, so I got a phone call, right when I was talking to one of the guys at Marvel about my contract. I said I wasn't going to renew, and it was right at COVID, and they had closed up, and people were working from their homes, and I said, I don't think I'm renewing. They said, well, we don't know if we're going to renew contracts anyway, blah, 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 whatever. I said it was time for me to go. And so during that, I get a phone call or an email from somebody at Boom. I think it was the editor, one of the editors, this guy, Eric. And he just wanted to know if I was available for anything. I said, well, I'm still under contract, but I happen to be wrapping up my contract soon. And I don't know what I'm going to be doing. And they said, oh, well, he's like, can I give you a call? I'm like, sure. So he gets on the phone and he's like, so listen, we're doing this book with Keanu Reeves. And I'm like, okay, the movie star, and he said, and I figured he was branding it, just Keanu Reeves this or Keanu Reeves that, but he was not going to have anything really to do with it.
Right.
Shatner's Tech Wars or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
So, and he said, oh, and he really loves your work.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Like I didn't believe it. And I was like, well, look, I said, I don't really want to get into another thing. Thank you, by the way.
Thanks, Bo. Good to see you, bro. Bo Smith,
appreciate it.
One of the greats.
So much. So I said I didn't really want to get involved in anything else. And they're like, can we at least talk to you about it? And, a little more. And, I'm like, well, sure, I'll listen to what you have to say, And he said, well, let's do a Zoom meeting. I'm like, all right. So that Wednesday comes, 1 o'clock, I hit the Zoom meeting button. Bing, there's Keanu Reeves staring at me.
I know shit.
So I was like, I'm like, hey, I know you. And he's like, Ron,
Will you do a book for me?
Something like we talked for a while. He's like, I want you. Because I said, I told them when they told me that he loves my work. I said, well, I was sarcastically. I said, well, I didn't hear that from him. And I said, I didn't really want to get involved in it, So then they must have told him that, and there he was.
Yeah.
So, to make it real, kind of. And, and he's funny, man, because he's like, I told him I've been riding Harleys and motorcycles my whole life, and he rides motorcycles. And, oh, well, you ride, and we'll go for a ride. Let's go riding. And I'm like, yeah, man, sure, because I knew about Arch, his motorcycle company.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
So, but he thought I lived in California, but I don't. I live on the East Coast, so we never went motorcycle riding. Hmm. But he was kind of like buttering it up to try to get me to be interested in doing Berserker too, and we joked around, and there were a few other people on the call too, like the editor, and Matt Kent was on there. And so I got along with them really well, all of them, but Keanu in particular, joking around quite a bit, laughing a lot. I was busting his chops a little bit because he asked me if I would mind if he gave feedback, do you mind if I give some feedback, if I see a page and I can say, oh, can we move a figure over here? And I'm like, and then he goes, oh, should I just fuck off? I said, yeah, just fuck off, dude. And he goes, he's like, oh, and I'm like, no, man, I'm kidding. Of course, yeah, you can. I said, you can. I said, within reason. I said, you can. I said, because I don't want to end up, having to redraw entire pages and things like that. I have to be allowed I'm the artist on the book, and I have to be allowed. It's my thing I'm working on, my art. So within reason, obviously, what's fair. And it's his baby, so obviously I'm going to listen to what he wants. I want him to be happy with it. So obviously, I've been in the business for over 30 something years. Of course, you can tell me. So that's pretty much how it went. And he said, "Well, I hope you decide to do it." And I said, "Yeah, I'll give him my answer soon." And obviously, I wasn't going to say no to Keanu fucking Reeves.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I'll do it." And then I was going to take a month off or something because I was burnt out. But then I started getting itchy, and I started feeling like the energy to do it. I said, "Fuck it, I'm just going to get in there and fucking become a freight train and just kick this thing's ass." So I got the script. I fucking barreled into that thing, and it was a 44 pager, and I did it. We got the Kickstarter, and the Kickstarter happened, and it was a huge success. So.
Yeah, you've had like the biggest selling comic since I think X-Men #1.
Yeah, I wish it were those numbers.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so it's been good, and it's going to be a movie, and we're in negotiations right now to do another 12 issues possibly, and another 44 pager maybe, so we'll see how it goes.
Nice. So
That's
you
so
think
cool.
so you thinking maybe another 44 pager and then possibly a 12 issue series then?
Yeah, possibly.
Dude,
Yeah,
that's
we'll see.
great. If you
I don't know
could
if
do
I'm
it.
supposed to say that, but I think it's okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it's okay.
Now scratch that from the
yeah. So and it's great. I love being part of the OG team on it.
Yeah.
Being and what I love about it too is that we brought this new character. Well, it was Keanu's baby, but we all brought this new mythology to the comics universe. This new character, and and it's really developed a following very fast, and people love it. And I was really sort of surprised. And I went to Heroes Con, and the line for me for Berserker was going around the thing. So it was nice to see the response. So I'm grateful it happened. It kind of came from like a bolt from the blue, and it's just weird. Again, everything's sort of serendipitous. Like in my life and career, like turns out the guy I competed against, I'm a second degree black belt in jiu-jitsu, and I competed some years ago, a few years back, in a international tournament, and the guy I went against, this guy Gay Cobham, he's a ex Special Forces Army Ranger, and arms like this. I was like, what the fuck? I did it just for fun. And I'm going to go in there and just compete in this fucking thing and see what I can do, And it was an eye-opening experience. But I lasted with him 6 minutes and stuff. And but it turns out anyway that so when I started working with Keanu, we became very good friends, me and this guy. And I get a text from him. He goes, "Oh, tell Kiki I said hello." And then I get a text from Keanu saying, "Oh, yeah, Gay told me he said hello." And it turns out that the guy owns the security guard agency that Keanu would hire for John Wick in New York.
The dude remembered you.
Well, we were always talking. But I didn't know he owned the security guard agency. Just dumb luck. And so it was just weird that we all knew each other. And then it turned out also the guy who I used to train under, this guy Renato Migliaccio, he trains at the same gym where he trains judo to some of the stuntmen for John Wick. So there was all this weird, cool stuff, connection. It's a small world anyway. It doesn't, you could always attach meaning to everything, but it was cool,
Yeah.
So, so it's been a real neat experience like that, So yeah, I had a dream one time that when it started that I was going through a city, and I ran up the side of this building. At the top of the building, Keanu was standing there with this other guy, and we were talking and stuff, and we were looking around the city, right? And then the other guy left, and I was talking to Keanu, and then I jumped off the building, and I slid down. I went to another building. And so it's funny because when I went to New York to see him, I went to the Hard Rock, and then he invited me, and we went to this back. It was just him and I and my wife a couple other people, me and Keanu.
Mm.
And we walked out to the terrace and on the top of the building overlooking the city, just like in my dream. And I was just talking to
Dude,
I know it's weird.
nuts.
you tell him that? Do you say like, bro?
It's like the
that's
Matrix.
weird,
I
but it's like
swear,
deja
dude,
vu.
you have no idea. You want to hear the most fucked up story ever?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's not about him, but this is just the fucked up. I call it the Ron Garney story because it's fucked up. So I was at the gym one time. I had an office down in Fairfield, about 25 minutes from here, because I had to get out of the house and work. And so I would stop at the gym, and I stopped at the gym one morning, and I was in the locker room, men's locker room, and I looked down. There's nobody around. It was like 8 o'clock in the morning. And I looked, there's some crumpled up money on the ground. I pick it up. It's two $100 bills. I'm like, oh shit, $200, you know? And I'm like, and I thought, well, let me turn this in. So I walked over to the front desk. I said, listen, somebody left their money, put it in an envelope. Hopefully they'll claim it. You know, if not, I'm still, I'll take it, you know, if nobody claims it. But I was hoping somebody could find it because it could be the last $200. You just never know, you know? So anyway, a few days goes by. Somebody taps me on the shoulder and I turn around. I'm working on a delt machine or something. And they stick their hand out. I go, hey, Ron Garney. They stick their hand out. They go, I'm the guy whose money you found. Thank you so much. I can't believe you turned that in. I really thought it was gone. It was a younger guy, younger than I was. And he's like, I wasn't going to be able to, you know, pay for my rent this month. I can't believe there's honest people like you. I'm like, well, no, man, of course I would, you know, obviously I would, I'm very happy for you, you know? And, and so then I go, so he goes, I go, what's your name? And he goes, Ron Garney.
What?
And I go, no, that's my name. He goes, no, that's my name. I go, no, my name is Ron Garney. He goes,
Shut the fuck, get out of here.
Pulls out his license. His fucking name was Ron fucking Garney.
It's fucking nuts.
All right, come on.
Come on,
It's
bro.
one of those things where you go, all right, what? You're looking around like, okay, what? I get it. What?
Yeah.
You're looking at the sky going, okay, come on. That's just too fucked up. I mean, what are the odds of that? Like even the Zek thing, the odds of these things happening are just so beyond. Yeah. It's just craziness.
That's awesome, dude.
And he was like, nice to meet you, Dad.
Well, he walked away weirded out because it was like, okay, nice to meet you, you know, like, because it was just too weird. Because the odds.
So when he was saying Ron Garney, he was saying, "Hey, I'm Ron Garney."
He was,
yeah.
And you're like, "Yeah, what's
hey,
up?" You know?
and he put his hand down. And I'm like, "Hey, how you doing?" You know, thinking he was just, you know. To this day,
crazy.
It freaks me out thinking about it. There's so many other stories I have like that, like coincidences that are beyond sort of coincidences. Like a recent one was my daughter moved to a house out in Torrington, Connecticut.
Oh, not Torrington.
Over an hour from here, right?
Yeah.
So of all the places, and I was born in Torrington, so just the fact that she has a friend there, she's moving out there, was funny enough for me. But I go out to see her, to visit her, like a month after she moved in, and pull in the driveway, and you know, we're talking and stuff, and I said, oh, let's go for a ride, because I used to live here, and I'll show you one of the houses I lived in growing up, when and I think it was not, you know, in the city, so we go take a ride up and around the street, blah 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 blah, and I find the street, it's called Midgeon Avenue, and I said, oh, there's the street I used to live on. It's closer than I thought, right? So we go down Midgeon Avenue, and I go, oh, there's the house. There's a house I lived in when I was 4 years old. We pull in the driveway, look. My daughter goes, wait a minute. She goes, that's my apartment right next door. She lives in the house right next door to the fucking house.
Crazy.
I was 4 years old. I'm like, what? I'm like, look, like, because we went around the other side. We drove out the other way and around in a circle to the side street. So, and her house is right next to the house I lived in. I mean, what are the odds again? I mean, these things are just messing with my head all the time.
Dude, you got to come on. So we've been talking about doing, Thursday Night Live with Billy Tucci All Stars, and we'll get BRZRKR on, we'll get Bill Willingham, we'll get Dale Keown on, we'll get Ethan on, we'll get you on, and we'll call it Happy Accidents, like all this weird shit that's happened to us.
I have a funny JR story. It was, you ever have those most embarrassing moments
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, mine involves JR quite directly.
Oh no shit.
That's so bad.
Yeah,
I can't even look at the guy because I'm embarrassed to this day. And he probably, I don't know what he thinks, but we say hi to each other. But it was just like, I'll tell you the story. So it was San Diego Con. I was nominated for the Eisner Award that year for Captain America. And Mark Wade, like a dick, a little side note, Mark Wade, like a dick, calls me up and goes, well, barring Steve Rude dying of a heart attack, you've got a real good shot. Steve Rude too. Like, thanks, Mark. Appreciate that. Real nice. So anyway, we're at the San Diego Con, and then John invites me out to dinner because his wife was trying to set me up with his wife's friend or something. And so I was single at the time, and so we went out to dinner. We all went out to dinner, and John Sr. was there, and Virginia, and JR, and his wife, and this girl, and then I think maybe one other person might have been there.
How'd that girl look, bro?
I was just gonna say, was she hot?
She was very pretty and very nice. I don't remember what happened. She lived out in California. I was out here in Connecticut. Just nothing, just didn't work. So, anyway, we had this massive dinner, and the bill comes, and I'm like, I got this, and I gave it my credit card, but it wasn't my credit card; it was my brother's credit card, because at that time I didn't have a credit card. I always paid for everything cash, and so I borrowed my brother's credit card. And so what he didn't tell me was he only had like $100 on the damn card.
Oh no!
So the freaking waiter comes back. He's like, "I'm sorry, sir, your card's been declined." And I'm like, "What? This is an outrage! How? Well, let me handle this." And I go, and and I didn't have any cash on me, so I'm like going, I'm retrying the card. I'm like, "Fuck." I'm like, all right, so I go run down. I'm like, I have to run like 8 blocks to the nearest ATM from this.
No shit. Oh.
So I'm like, and I'm sweating like, so I find the ATM, and I'm like, and they didn't have debit cards then, like I couldn't pay with a debit card. So I go, and the fucking ATM is out of order. I'm swearing like a sailor because of the whiskey. Anyway, so sorry, anyone who doesn't like my swearing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I have to go back to the freaking restaurant, and they were like, "Where were you?" And I'm like, "Oh, just looking around." And I said, "JR, can I talk to you for a minute?" I'm like, "Dude, wait, JR, can you lend me the money and I'll pay you back tomorrow?" So he pulls out a wad of freaking cash like this. From shit he must have sold at the con, and he lends me the money, and I did pay him back the next day, but it was like in front of everybody.
Wait, but he gave you the money in front of everybody, or
well, kind of on the side under the.
Okay, all right. So that the girl didn't know.
No, the girl knew.
Oh, she did.
Everybody knew, and the girl was like, "Oh, that's so sweet. It was so nice of you to offer anyway." They were all really nice about it.
Yeah,
but that doesn't matter to me. I'm like, in my heart, I felt like it was like that Fred Flintstone thing where he goes, "Here," and all of a sudden,
yeah.
I went to be this big, and then I ended up feeling like this big, But it was also because it was the Ramitas, I'm like, oh god,
that's royalty, bro. That's
man. And I just felt
Virginia's out there. Yeah.
I know, dude. But to this day, I look at JR, and I was like, I almost don't even want to see him because it just reminds me of that, But he was nice enough to lend it to me, and it's just one of them things, man.
Yeah. Well, he's a lot like you though, too. So he's all good. He gets it.
I don't know. I don't. I see it run into him once in a great while. I haven't seen him or talked to him in years and years.
Hey, I want to go back to your story from like 10 minutes ago because Green Laser had a great point. If you saw this,
no.
Either way, Ron Garney.
That's good. Right. Yeah, that's the message in this somehow.
Yeah.
I'm going to get the story. That's good. Yep.
Holy. Hey, Ron, man.
That didn't even occur to me. That's really smart. Yeah.
Hey, Ron, we've had you on for an hour and 45 minutes almost.
Yeah.
Thank you
wife
so
was
much.
waiting to watch
I know I tell you 45 minutes and now it says no, an hour.
No,
But man,
I talked a lot too.
Nah, you're great. So, like I said, I'm serious about doing that All-Star show. And we'll just all hang out and we'll laugh. We'll drink. We'll have a good time. And but I just want to thank you. And you know, we're all proud of you and well deserved of what you've done, what you've accomplished. And looking forward to seeing more of your stuff. I hope personally, I'd love to see at least a 44-page Berserker for the sequel for the next movie.
Yeah,
but if you do 12 issues, holy shit, you're talking Netflix, a whole 2 seasons of that bad boy or so.
Animated series, you know, but there's going to be other artists involved, you know, and there was already another Berserker, because I know Boom wants to, you know, there's going to be a whole Berserker universe. So this thing is just growing like crazy. And so it's weird to see it happen.
Maybe we might get some Boom guys on here. What do you think, Scala?
Oh,
yeah, you should. They're great guys, man. All the guys there really. You should get
got a little chat with them on Monday. So maybe.
Yeah, ask Matt Gagnon to come on. They're all great dudes. I love them all. You know, it's been nothing but a good experience.
They've had
to deal with me too. You know, so
Ross has been great to us. He's been on the show.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
And he's such a good guy, man. So I think
we gotta get Philip on.
Philip.
I was hanging with Philip last weekend or whatever it was, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite people. We had dinner in Baltimore, and I love the guy. We've become. I consider him a friend. You know, all those guys. You know, it's become and I think what I like about it too is to be a part of the success of Berserker and have it be a part of a company that's really trying to do some good stuff, and they're putting out good material, and you know, and do good work, and they're smaller and younger, and it's nice to be a part of something like of that growth. You know, after this my career being with Marvel, and you know, Marvel when I started was smaller, but it was still right before they ballooned into the corporate juggernaut that they've become. You know, so but it's nice to see Boom. I see Boom. Big things in Boom's future, so it's nice to be part of it.
Yeah. And it's good to hang with good people and work with good people.
Yeah. And on that note, you're right. I got to get going.
Yeah. So. Ron, thanks a million, brother. Like I said, please come on again. Like I said, I want to do that little all-star panel where we can have some fun. If you don't mind, I'll invite JR again.
Yeah.
He's a buddy of mine.
I remind him of that story.
Yeah. He's a good dude. He's funny.
I'm never going to offer to pay again.
Hey, Ron, Ron, you going, I know we're closing out convention season. Are you doing any more appearances? You going to New York or?
I might go to New York. I've done a bunch of shows this summer, and you know, I'm kind of showed out at this point, you know, but I'm probably going to try to sneak into New York for a day or two. But I'm supposed to talk to, you know, New York was a little weird. I mean, it become you know, I don't know. I don't want to go.
I hear you. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So it's getting weird with them.
Yep. All right, brother. Thank you so much. You're kicking ass. Like I said, real proud of you, man. Well deserved.
Thanks. I wish I had talked to all you guys. Appreciate all the questions and all the nice comments. I was reading them. Well, you know, I was reading them, and I appreciate. I hear you, and I nothing but love for you guys. All right.
Check out Ron on Instagram. All right. Thank you, Randy, as always. Great stream, guys. Thank you, Citizen Ron. You guys rock. And Scott, you want to take us out?
That's right. Thanks again, Ron, and everyone. We'll see you guys all next week.
Good night.
Bye.
Night, brother.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us on Pop XP. If you haven't already, make sure to click that subscribe button and also click the bell for notifications when we go live and we upload some awesome new content. Also, don't forget to head on over to Twitter and follow us at the Pop XP and over on Instagram at the Pop XP. Thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you soon.